Welcome back, and thank you once again for joining me for another Let's Discuss some stuff. Yay, let's talk about stuff. Here, I gotta make sure, because I can't even remember. I always thought it was Outlast, but I'm pretty sure it's Outlast. Okay, good. Because I couldn't remember if it was Outlast or Outcast. That tells you how long it's been since I've, one, cared about it, and two, played it. But I do apologize. If you go to my Steam account, which I'm not going to tell you my name, because it's right there, you can figure it out pretty easily. But if you go to my name, it tells you I have 61 hours played in this game. Something happened, I don't know, Steam, I don't know what it is with Steam, maybe I'm just this lone guy, but Steam constantly messes up for me all of the time. Absolutely all of the time. And so, for backing up games, downloading games, playing games, doing anything with games, really, it could mess up on almost any level. But one time I was playing it, it crashed or something like that, and it wouldn't let me start it back up. So I was like, well, I'm not going to restart my computer. I'm not going to get rid of, back all the way out. I'm not going to restart my computer just so I can go back to playing Outlast. Outlast. So basically, I just ignored it, and basically, it took like 2 or 3 days for me to actually figure out why I couldn't play Outlast again, because I could play other games. And what happened is when it crashed, it went away. Some fragment of it was still running and operating, but not enough for me to notice it on a task manager. It wasn't affecting performance, it wasn't affecting anything, so I wasn't having this. I just couldn't play it anymore. I was like, whatever, I don't care. And so that game was running, and so now running the entire time. So now I have 61 hours into a game that I haven't beaten. Oh yeah, that's a pretty common occurrence right now, isn't it? The fact that I have actually been talking more often about games I have not beaten so far. Well, depending when I put these videos up, because I record these whenever I feel like it. I record these whenever I've got about an hour to sit around and just do stupid stuff and talk to a mic for a while. Yeah, so basically I have 60 hours in that game, and I only played it for maybe, 6, 7. Didn't really enjoy it the whole time. So we're going to discuss why. Why does everyone like Outlast? Why does everyone play Outlast? Why does everyone enjoy Outlast when they play it? It's kind of baffling to me. Massive failings all around, really. Well, okay, starting off, the easiest comparison I can possibly make to kind of embed the opinion that I'm getting ready to divulge. Yeah, divulge. We use divulge, stupid. My vocabulary is horrible because I can't spell and or remember what the words are. Okay, what I'm getting ready to impress upon you this entire time is if you compare it to Dead Space. Now, a lot of people like Dead Space. I kind of like Dead Space when you put it into a certain category. But what ultimately boiled down with Dead Space is it was a horrible, horrible game because it failed in every aspect it tried to do. It was a really horribly executed game, a really horribly done game. So what I ended up doing, and what made it into an actually pretty fun game, I mean, not the best game I've ever played, but a solid 7 out of 10. A fun game. You're enjoying yourself. You had fun with it. You didn't mind paying for it. And you beat the game. I played that game from start to finish, beat it. Was rather happy with the experience. What I had to do in order to do that, though, was to say to myself that this was not a horror game. If I had not done that, I would have hated that game completely. I would have despised that game on almost every level, because it is, in fact, almost never terrifying. I mean, there are a few moments. The first time you go into a vacuum space in Dead Space, you kind of can understand, you can kind of feel it, but the fact is, it doesn't execute it well enough, and there's no real tension to the whole thing, especially by that point. I can't remember when exactly, but by that point, you were pretty well armed, and at that point, it was a full-on action game. You weren't playing this game, you weren't playing survival horror, you weren't worried about things, you were just going around murdering things and having fun. So basically, an enemy sneaking up behind you when you're in a little vacuum and you can't hear it isn't all that terrifying at this point, because you turn around and murder it. And though it did have some tense moments in it, for the most part, it was just a dumb action game, and bam, that's it. Really, that's the whole argument. Like, do you like the combat? Do you like the movements of it? Do you like everything about? Like, did you like the action aspects of Dead Space? If yes, you liked the game. If no, you didn't like the game. If you're one of those people who thought that Dead Space was a horror game and was terrifying, I say this sometimes, and I don't mean it all the time, but I definitely mean it right now. You do not have the proper context, and you do not have the proper intellectual level and or prior experience and or mindset, I guess, a lot of different things, to judge a horror thing by the horror elements itself. If you thought that Dead Space was a horror game, other than the fact that people called it a horror game, and it was in fact titled a horror game, then you are either horribly inexperienced within the horror genre, or you're just kind of dumb. And I normally don't mean to be that mean. Sometimes I intentionally attempting to be that mean. But frankly, people who thought that game was terrifying were kind of dumb. Outlast, it's worse. We'll get to it. But it's worse, though, because at least, I mean, there was so little subtlety to Dead Space that it was funny, that it was attempting to be horrifying, but a lot of it was still there. At least it was a lot of the horror elements were there. They just were done horribly wrong. They are at least attempting to be there, you know, jump scares and atmosphere and all this other stupid stuff, but it's just all done terribly wrong. I'm not saying jump scares are good. I'm just saying that they are they're a staple of the genre, or the subgenre, whatever you call horror. I'm gonna call it genre because I don't care. What boils down with Outlast is the fact that it is essentially Dead Space, but not fun. I'd like to boil it down to it's Mirror's Edge without good controls. It's Mirror's Edge without the level design backing up the platforming. And it's Mirror's Edge without the speed. And you might go, why do you say that? What you do? Half this game... Well, no, let's not go half this game. Let's say it realistically. 85 to 90% of this game is you running or hiding from monsters that will kill you instantly. And so, I guess monsters, just people. Let's just say people. The Marine, the ghost thing... They're all just people. Either I guess the ghost thing's like some kind of genetically engineered thing. I don't care. I don't care about the retarded ending. I watched that retarded ending, and because I couldn't play this game anymore. I just wanted to see how if the ending was worth it. Because sometimes a terrible game's ending can make up for it. It did not. But whatever. No matter what you're playing, no matter where you're at, you're doing literally the same thing. It's not like a first-person shooter where like, oh, all you're doing is just shooting people in the face with guns. I mean, yeah, technically, if you boil everything down to the most base structure ever, yeah, if you boil every single game down to the base structure ever, it's everything you do is the same thing. Hey, you want to play a puzzle game? You're just doing the same thing over and over again. You're playing a shooting game, you gotta shoot. But here, even with some of the most, what people call the most like structured, like the least amount of fun you can possibly have shooters, still have at least what we like to call enemy placement and level design. Whereas how you kill the enemies is still a variant and can still be different than the last time you killed an enemy. Whether that enemy is up on a ridge or hiding behind something or shooting a sniper rifle at you from a really long distance, it does vary a lot. Everything about Outlast is either... I mean, let's get to the 10% first. Stupid platforming and or just walking around. Really, it's all wrapped up into one, because when you're platforming, as in crawling alongside of like tiny edges and doing stuff like that, you're not doing anything. You're just pushing. You're holding the stick forward, or holding the stick left, or holding the stick right, and sometimes you might do a quick time event. And then you got the stupid things where you're reading the stupid notes, which I still liked kind of in the game, but still, it's dumb, and it's in every single other horror thing, so whatever. And then you got the whole reading this, like recording things and picking the things off the walls and going, oh no, and getting the notes. And then the other majority of the game, like the entire aspect of the game is one or more people are trying to kill you. If these people catch you, technically twice, I guess, but if these people catch you, they kill you instantly. So you have one of two options. You either can hide from them, you can run and hide from them, or you can run from them. And that is the entire game. From start to finish, that's all it is. And that's probably what I hate the most about the game, is the fact that it's not that, because Amnesia: The Dark Descent, at least, it had its same level design problems, same enemy placement problems that Outlast has, but at least it was really, really trying to go for it. You can outrun him. You could outrun people in Amnesia, but you didn't feel like you were like the fastest person on Earth. You didn't feel like you were playing a game in which you were meant to go as fast as you can and trying to have fun with it. I'm really sticking with the whole. I'm really sticking with the idea that it is in fact Mirror's Edge, because the controls feel like not the controls, but basically the gameplay itself feels like it's Mirror's Edge. And it really does set some weird, strange, precedent to the whole thing, because I can't really explain it much better than that, but when you play it, it feels like Mirror's Edge, like the running and the wind going through your face and just trying to outrun people, and you can look behind you. Holy crap! That is literally the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in a video game. Though technically people can do it in real life too, but when you're trying to outrun a monster, you don't look behind you. You run into walls. The first time I used the look behind you feature, smashed straight into a wall. And I laughed because it was funny. But that's the entire game, though. It's an unfun, terrible controls, horrible level design version of Mirror's Edge. And if you don't like Mirror's Edge, I'm sorry, it's a great game. It's a really fun game. It's a game in which the better you are at the game, the better the game gets. Or if you're slow and you don't understand the level design and how movement works in that game, it will slow you down horribly. But whatever. And I think it's a very apt description between the two games, as this is Dead Space but without the fun. Because they're both it's basically the same thing. They're both horror video games. I guess technically they're third and first person, but it doesn't matter. But they're both horror games that fail horribly at the horror aspects of them. The only difference is that it's still, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, it's still fun to smash xenomorphs in the back of the head with your boot. You know, it's not fun. Running away from every single thing in Outlast. Yeah, frankly, I have a stupid little joke where I talk to people about it, and it's not even that good, but I'm like, Outlast, it should be named Outrun. Why? Why should it be named Outrun? Because you literally outrun everything in this game. Do you know how absolutely little tension you create when you can outrun everything in this game? Now, should I be able to get caught in seconds? Should I be able to get caught in seconds? No. I don't believe that at all. I think it should take a while for that monster to catch up to you and kill you. But should you be able to run in a straight line and always outrun that person? No. This is literally the Marine in this game, which I hated the very idea of it is so stupid, because he's strong enough to rip you in half. And he's strong enough to rip your arm off. Let's just, if we don't want to talk, I'm not going to go into that much detail about it, but if you do the math of it, basically, the strength it requires to rip a person's arm off, if they were somehow pinched into something, like some kind of machine or some kind of winch had them held, and their body wasn't moving, and you're just ripping their arm right out of the socket, then the amount of strength necessary to do that is baffling. Now, imagine the amount of strength you have to do when you're picking that same person up, either by the head or neck, however he's picking you up, or whatever, and then ripping that out of your own hand. Meaning that you have to have probably at least 6 times the strength necessary to rip a man's arm off his off of his whatever. Rip it off of his rip his arm off his body. There we go. I can't pronounce words for some reason. it would take unfounded amounts of extra strength. It's literally impossible to do so. At least the guys that want to stab me in the face and rape me, like, kind of make sense, you know? They're crazy people, and they want to rape me, and they want to kill me, and they want to eat my body. Bam. They're strong, and they can stab me to death. Bam. Okay, I'm getting a bit off track, but basically that's what it is. They should call it Outrun. Ha 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 ha. I am such a pretentious video game reviewer. Ha ha ha. The cinema snob. Okay, so backing, I want to go back a bit. I want to go back kind of all the way and just start off on why does it fail as a horror game. Just to put it in a bit more context, there was a horror game that I bought shortly after this one. Not shortly, maybe a couple months after this one. It was during the Steam Summer Sale or before the Steam Summer Sale, somewhere around there. I didn't talk about it in that video, but here. It's a game called Real Horror Stories. It's essentially a point-and-click video game in which you just have a single screen, you click on stuff, and stuff happens, you have to solve like some rudimentary puzzles, and the game jump scares you all the time. Before I had played this game, which is literally only jump scares, I mean, I'm not even kidding. In between, like, 80% of the game is jump scares, 20% of the game is rudimentary puzzle solving. Literally, a majority of the game, if not, I would even argue all of the game, because part of the puzzle solving includes the jump scares sometimes, is still jump scares. So, before I had played this game, before I picked this game up, which I picked up for 20 cents, I was going to call Outlast Jump Scares the video game. Really. I have not liked a horror movie in 15, 16 years. I've been very young since I liked a horror movie. At least for it terrifying me, at least for it scaring me. Sometimes there's good horror movies that are dark and depressing and like they present an atmosphere that's really, really good. Like, I'm not scared of the movie, but I most definitely would still like the movie and watch the movie. But other than that, I've never been scared of a movie. The idea of a scary movie is the dumbest thing to me. Well, not the modern day movies are like the dumbest things to me. I apologize, because some movies are good, some horror movies are good. But modern horror movies are some of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life. The Strangers, The Conjuring, Insidious. Insidious was hilariously funny. I laughed at Insidious. I found that to be funny. That was funny bad. But all those movies all have the same, like all modern horror movies basically. Even what people say are the good ones, they're still like some of them are. But it's like the horror involved is, hey, musical stings, and jump scares. That's it. That's all horror movies are. And then when I played Outlast, because everyone talked about how great Outlast was. Everyone talked about how awesome Outlast was and how scary, and how it's like, oh, it's a revival of the horror genre, and blah blah this, blah blah that. People talked about Outlast like that, and when I played it, I immediately thought to myself, this feels like a horror movie and not a horror video game. Which, yeah, there are a lot of terrible horror video games, but in fact, there are a lot of really, really, really good horror video games. There's so many. There's the Silent Hill series. There's questionably the Resident Evil series early on. There's Silent Hill, messing up, Eternal Darkness, the Call of Cthulhu games and stuff like that. There's so many, I'm blanking already because I haven't been playing horror games recently, which is a depressing thing. But then again, Outlast was one of the last ones, and yeah. Actually, I can probably go to my Steam account and look at my horror games in here. Oh yeah, that's right. There's a couple of here. I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream. That's not actually a horror. I wouldn't call that a horror game. That's more of a psychological thriller, an oppressive game. It's not even a psychological thriller. That's stupid, Josh. Either way. So I played it, and basically, I immediately thought to myself, jump scares, the video game. Which, of course, Real Horror Stories turned out to be taking that title to such... Like, it made Outlast look subtle with it. But here's the ultimate difference between Outlast and Real Horror Stories, is the fact that with Real Horror Stories, the jump scares came so frequently and also infrequently at the same time. Like, you would have, like, 5, 6 jump scares in, like, a minute. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It would just be that quick. You just hit them. Bam, 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 bam. They'd come at you all the time. Like the Pope getting hit with lightning and burning to death, and while he was in hell, and all this weird stuff happens. I was not scared with Real Horror Stories. Not even a little bit. But the back of my neck tingled, because I was anticipating the jump scares. I wanted to get the jump scares. I wanted to see the next one. I wanted to see how stupid and weird this game got. Frankly, the loading screens, like the loading screens in between each level, like I guess each chapter, really, were some very, very creepy things. So you're just sitting there waiting for the jump scare, and it never comes. And the loading, and like it has, I don't think it has anything to do with processing power, because this is a pretty low-end game. So I think the loading times are going to be about the same for everyone else. It's a really long loading time, I mean, maybe not a minute. Oh, my window's open. Maybe it's like, yeah, let's just say a minute. It takes a minute to load each level, and you're like, well, that's crazy. Why would I want to wait a minute? Well, actually, it loads up several levels, but frankly, one of the greatest things, one of the best parts, it's like the fact that you hit these moments of massive, never-ending jump scares, and then it's just this weird slow moment where it's just loading, and it does nothing but maybe zoom in a little bit over that minute time. Maybe nothing but revolve around something stupid, like just like a panning camera or something like that. And it works. Actually, I think it works really, really well for how little the game does. I think it works really well as a horror game. Compared to at least Outlast, and compared to some of the contemporary newer horror things and the newer horror movies, it works way better than any of those. Of course, not scary at all, but the tingling on the back of my neck hairs was a fun thing, I thought. It was stupid, but it was really fun. So, here's, I keep saying here's the thing, but Outlast cost me about $15 to play, I think. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but I didn't pay full price for it. The Real Horror Stories I paid 20 cents for. 20 cents. Less than a quarter I paid for Real Horror Stories. And Real Horror Stories was infinitely worth more of the money. Like, it was worth more. To me, I would have preferred to pay $10 for Real Horror Stories and get Limbo. I mean, not Limbo, but Outlast. I'm looking right at it. I looked right at Limbo. I don't know why I said that. I'd rather have paid out. I would have felt like it would have been a better deal if I would have paid 20 cents for Outlast and $10 or $15 for Real Horror Stories. If I'd have got the exact same games, paid the exact same money for both games, but just the price tags were different on each one, I would have felt that I would have gotten a better value. Because Outlast is a terrible game all around, whereas Real Horror Stories was stupid, yeah, but it at least hit some of the notes right. Okay, well, let's just start. Let's start over. Let's just keep starting over, Josh. Start over again. Just from the start of the game. Let's just go from the start of the game, like plot-wise, because it's incredible. It's just apparent what. Like, if you don't notice it, if you never noticed it, if you never thought about it consciously, you would have seen the signs. Like, if you would have thought about it consciously, you would have seen the signs like I saw the sign. Because I start the game up and I'm really excited about it. I've wanted to play Outlast for a while. I've always thought that Outlast looked like it could have been cool and looked like it could have been fun, and everyone talked about how great it was. So I was willing. I wanted it. I wanted to play it. I wanted to buy it. I wanted to play it for a very long time. Got it during a sale, I think. Maybe Steam Summer Sale, I don't know, I'm not sure. But it was on sale when I bought it. And I started playing it. And you go through and you walk through the courtyard. You climb up the stairs. Well, the scaffolding, I guess. Same thing. There's stairs on the scaffolding. No, ladder on the scaffolding. You climb up the scaffolding. You go in the house. It's dark. You put on the night vision. And I'm not sure when it happens, but one of the first things you're introduced to in this game, one of the absolute first things happens is the TV turns on, like out of nowhere. It's really loud and it startles you. This is jump scare number 1. I'm like, okay, Josh, just like I'm sitting there, I'm already right now, like all of my neurons are firing off, and I'm going, okay, this is gonna be bad. I'm like, no, I'm not, and I'm trying to talk myself down. No, Josh, you just need to calm down. You know, they're just starting the game, they're just setting the mood, they're just setting the tone of the game. Just ease up, it's gonna get better. Well, you do some more stuff, and then you see a man just sitting in a chair. Sitting in a wheelchair. He's not doing anything. He's not moving. He's just sitting in that wheelchair. So you walk up to him. You know for a fact something's going to happen with this man. You feel like something's going to happen with this man. You look at the guy and you're like, well, he's going to jump on me for some reason. He's going to attack me for some reason. He's going to do something to me to try to scare me. You walk up to him. Nothing happens. You walk past him and you walk in the other room and all these people are watching a blank TV or the static TV. You walk back into the room and you're like, you walk back out of the room into the hallway and you're still looking at that guy and you're like, he's going to jump on top of me. You walk past him, he jumps on top of you and starts saying some nonsense about him needing to be killed or him being scared and wanting to get out or something stupid like that. Second thing that happens in the game, jump scare. And not only a jump scare, but one of the most predictable jump scares ever. So, at this point, my ability to suspend disbelief, my ability to become immersed in the story and in the gameplay and in everything else just starts to fade. Starts to just dissipate pretty hard. Some more stupid crap happens, and then it just basically goes away completely. Like, I am, like, basically done with the game. I am done. And then, so it takes a little bit, but not too much time. And you finally get the security card, or the generator, or something, whatever. You get some random thing running, so you can get into the security office. You watch the videos and you see the stupid ghost at the end of the game and it's murdering people. You gotta get out of here. Whatever. Then all of a sudden you pick up before this you pick up some things talking about the Marine, about how he was a soldier and now he's gone crazy and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden you hear a note, you see a prompt coming up and it says, you need to hide. Use this button to open a locker and shut the locker. Alright. Okay. So I do that. And in comes, and he kicks the door down. This big fat dude kicks the door down. And he's staring at the locker, and then he walks away. Well, I guess he walks away for the rest of you guys. But he's staring at the locker, and I'm sitting here like, this is kind of dumb. I just want to see what it will look like when he kills me. So I kick open the locker, and I just stand there. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. He rips my arm off. I was like, that was pretty dumb. I'm already dead. I don't do it. I don't care what's going on. I'm not playing. I'm not playing the game, son. I'm playing my game. I'm trying to have fun in this game. So then, I die, it restarts, and it does it over again. Hide. I literally stand in front of the door. Well, a couple steps back from the door, so I can run around him. He kicks the door open. It takes a second for him to register the fact that I'm standing there instead of being in the locker like the game wants me to be. He charges at me. I outrun him. I run down to a door, open the door, shut the door. I'm on the other side of the door. He doesn't follow. And I immediately think to myself, that worked surprisingly well for some reason. Like, it wasn't, at that point, I had not even thought to myself, hey, I'm going to play this like Mirror's Edge. Hey, I'm going to make sure that I play this in the most retarded way possible to make sure that the game is slightly fun to me, rather than infinite number of retarded jump scares mixed with zero tension situations. Which all of these things are. They are zero tension situations. So then you go down and you gotta turn on the reactors or something stupid like that. And there's a guy chasing you down there. The entire time, I'm just outrunning him. Sometimes I would stop, look at him, he would come around at me, I would dodge him, and then continue to outrun him and toy with him. This should not be a possibility. Like, the whole point of the Dark Descent is crippling you and not having you have the ability to fight back, is to make it so that way when the monster shows up and you are messing around and being retarded. Like, if I were to do that to the monster, if I was going to do like this into any other game, outside of like Resident Evil 6 and like Resident Evil 4, like most other games, if you were going to do this to the monsters hunting you, trying to kill you, just goof around with, like, stand next to it and just dodge it to the left, dodge to the right while it's trying to kill you, they would murder you easily. Some of them have weird telekinetic powers and they would just rip you to pieces if you're too close. Like the Dark Descent, you would just go too crazy from looking at it. You know, all the stuff like it, and at least forces the player to play the way the game wants you to play. Well, there's no tension in playing the game the way the Outlast wants me to play it. So I play it the way I want to have it, where it gives me a slight amount of tension, and it lets me run around like an idiot and have fun. And I was having fun. I was having some fun. It was more at the expense of the game, but I was having, indeed, fun. Okay, so we keep going through. Keep going through the game. Don't care right now. I'm playing, Flash? That's what I am. I'm Flash. Not Flash Gordon, because that'd be cool. I'm just playing the Flash. Sprinting around, running around, not caring. Kicking, here's another thing. There's options to open a door quietly and options to open a door hard. And it makes noise, but it's faster. But why would you ever do that? So, in this situation, I'm kicking all the doors open. I am smashing the doors open whenever I can, and I'm sprinting everywhere. I'm trying to speed run a video game that I have never played before. I'm trying to do things as quickly as I possibly can, making sure that I am in danger as often as I possibly can, because it's fun that way. And not to mention that there is no tension in getting caught, because here, all you have to do, because like I said before, 2 times you get caught. The second time you get caught, basically, you die. You have a health bar in this game. So when the big guy picks you up, instead of ripping your arm off the first time, he throws you across the room. So as long as you would avoid him, which is actually surprisingly difficult, which I'll get into a little bit later and what can be fixed by this, but instead of ripping your arm off like he should have when he first did it, he throws you. And you get up and you outrun him and your health recovers, because it's one of those things where your health just naturally recovers on its own. And then the next time he catches you, he rips your arm off. If you have not recovered any health. But if you have recovered health, which is very easy to do, and quite possibly almost impossible to not do unless you were being intentional, or you got unlucky and accidentally hit a corner or some kind of invisible wall or some kind of bad hitbox and you accidentally caught something and you got murdered because of that, because that happens a lot too. You're not going to get killed. Unless you just don't care. It's quite easy, man. It's quite easy. So it keeps going. And some things happen. At first, it was kind of... I was starting to like it when we were getting to the insane asylum. I laughed at the 2 guys that were going to rape me. But, I wasn't like, haha, you guys can't rape me, you're terrible. I kind of was. I'm like, I can outrun you guys. You know that, right? And I can, because that's what this game's all about. Outrun. That's what the name of the game is. It's not Outlast. You're not outlasting anything. You're just outrunning people. Get it? Because the joke, the play on words, the pun, it's not a pun. It's a run. Okay, so at least there's some tension. No, there's no tension there. I admitted that. It's just there is something there at least. It's a legitimate threat. Because they come off incredibly creepy, and they come off incredibly weird. And when you meet these people, both times, if you were caught by them, if you were seen running, oftentimes they would find you and kill you. If you tried to do the same things with everyone else, where you try to sidestep a little bit and outrun them, you were murdered pretty badly. There's even a moment in the game in which you're in the showers or something like that. You're somewhere close by to the showers. And if you don't jump out the window and go around the long way, if you don't do that, no matter what happens, you get murdered. You cannot run them, you cannot avoid them. That's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to, for most games, a horror game can give you options to play it. But for the most part, if you want a good horror experience, you need to make sure the player knows what he can and can't do and how he should be playing the game. If you let him do what he wants, he's going to do whatever he wants, and he's going to be stupid like me and run around like an idiot. Alright, I'm gonna done with this, because basically the whole point of the game is you get chased by the Marine, period of nothing. Get chased by some other random thing, period of nothing. Get chased by the Marine, period of nothing. Get chased by the stupid doctor, period of nothing. Chased by the Marine, and period of nothing. It's just a revolving process that never stops. I don't get it. I don't care. Whatever. It's stupid. And basically, after like the 6th or 7th time we saw the Marine, I was just done. I couldn't. Well, one, I couldn't get past him. I don't know if I went the wrong direction or what, but it was in this really tiny hallway, and I was trying, but I had no idea where to go. And every time you did something, like, he didn't have the best. Like, he didn't have like a retarded pattern that could be exploited. He was kind of smart and walking around the hallway pretty fast. So I didn't know how to get past it. And I was like, I'm just done, because this is like the 7th or 8th time I've outran this retarded person 50 times. I've outran this guy so many times. I've outmaneuvered this guy so many times. Which one? I guess we'll talk about next. I don't think I'm going to go into how to fix it. But here's the thing: is if the guy is that big and he's not faster than me, then there's a very, very high likelihood he does not have the agility of me. Which, this was a weird thing that I found with when you had to out dodge them and outrun them. If you're moving left or right trying to outrun him, they will move right and left with you. Like, I don't really get it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if they can outrun me, like, why would anyone that big as the Marine be able to have the agility? It doesn't make any sense. Because, like, they can, like, seriously, if you go diagonally, they follow you, like, perfectly. Like, as if the AI has some kind of weird ability to break its own animation cycles in order to follow you perfectly. I don't know. But whatever, I don't care. That's stupid. But it happens a bunch, and I was like, okay. You want to play rough? Okay, I'm reloading. So, yeah, then that happened a bunch of times, so I stopped. I couldn't play it anymore. But really, it's like, there's no tension in anything. I know, I'm just veering off again. There's absolutely no tension in anything. There's only one spot in the entire game in which I wasn't scared, wasn't horrified, wasn't bothered. There only one time I felt remotely tense. And only one time when the Marine actually caught me. Only one time when the Marine, like, not caught me, but, like, saw me. Only in the one time in which I actually felt the same constant tingling in the back of my neck that I got from real horror stories. Only happened one time in Outlast. And even then, it was rather weak compared to most of real horror stories, which is sad. But there's a part where you're getting chased by the Marine, and this is the 2nd or 3rd time you've been chased by the Marine in, like, in a real world situation, like a 15-minute period. In an in-game situation, it could be 30 to 40 minutes, but it's a very, very short time frame. Like you have not gone through that much distance, you have not traveled that far, and you have had to run this guy 3 separate times, and you hit the sewers, where you're like chest deep in water, so you can't run. And the only thing you have, and you can't see anything, like even your camera, which is like that's how you see in the dark, which can zoom in a very, very far different distance, can barely see anything because it's all pitch black except for this one area, and that one area, which is still kind of dark, has the ladder in it. But the fact is, you can be seen in that area just like you can see in that area, and it's just so weird. Like, in these situations, like throwing someone in pitch black, throwing someone in a place where they cannot move very quickly, and throwing someone in a way where you can only hear where your opponent is. You can only hear where the thing is trying to kill you is. This is something that's actually, I think it might have even been stolen from Amnesia: The Dark Descent, where the invisible monster in the water, where it takes the steps, and that's the only way you know where it is. It seems like it might even be borrowed from that, but basically, this situation should be free. A free scare. This should be a free, horrifically tense moment for you. Like, it wouldn't take much to actually make this good. And the fact that it comes off as barely tense is pretty strange to me. It's pretty disappointing too. It could have been amazing. But no, you're waist deep, you can barely move, and you've got to hear where the Marine is. and you got to outmaneuver him and then climb. And basically, by the time I got to the whatchamacallit, by the time I got to the weird whatever structure it is, it's like a bunch of broken and thrown together stuff, to get back up into the sewer and out of whatever this drainage area is. I heard, like, you can hear the score go off like crazy, like you've been seeing. And that was the only time I felt any kind of tension, was the slow moving in this area where I was trying to get to that structure, and then when he caught me and noticed where I was, and I felt like he was right behind me. That was the only time I ever felt like there was someone right behind me. Because no matter where I was going, I was outrunning those guys. I was running circles for 3-4 minutes straight, just running in circles, outrunning them, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Only time I ever had that feeling that you get sometimes when you have the fingers touching the back of your neck. It was actually pretty sweet. It was pretty cool. But, no. So I don't get it, yeah. We'll just wrap this up here, because I don't have too much more to say. Like, he drops his phone, he drops his recorder. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't, like we call ourselves on stuff just like this. We've jumped around with the camcorder on us. We've been hit. We've been struck. We had our finger cut off. We had all kinds of retarded stuff happen to us, and we just now have broken the recorder. That's it. It's really retarded. Yeah, there's no tension. That's like the worst thing you can have in a horror game. You should have all of the tension. You should have all of the tension. You should have all kinds of tension in the game. You should not have a game in which, like, the only fun you can have is the fun you have at the expense of the game. And the fact that people like this, it baffled me. Like, have you never played any of the great horror games in the past? Any of the Silent Hills, any of the like the Eternal Darkness game and the Call of Cthulhu. What is that? I don't even know what that one is. Let me look that up. I only played that for a little bit and I loved it. I need to play it some more, but I've got like 10 billion games on Steam, so. Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth. That was a fun game of what I played. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. Outlast, like, it struck me as weird. Like, everyone talked about how great the horror game is. Maybe it's because a bunch of people who are new to gaming, at least, like who started up gaming in between the last 5 years, have never played a horror game before. Which could be very possible, because, like, you play Resident Evil 5 and you're like, oh, I'm playing a horror game. No, you're playing Resident Evil 5. Like, even, no matter how creepy, no matter how amazingly, and I love how creepy they are, the regenerators are in Resident Evil 4, they're still not creepy. Like, if you get my drift. Like, it really, really does blow you away. Some of the older games that we've played. And I know there's games out there like Condemned, and there's other horror games out there that are just as amazing that it came out recently, but how many people play Condemned? Yeah, were there sales in the 5 millions? No. I'd be surprised if 1 million people bought Condemned. That would be a very big surprise. Condemned is a very, very unknown game. There's so many awesome games like that, though. And most of them are coming from the past. So I guess if you came from a situation in which you have not known the tension of horror games, you have not known what could be a good horror game, that you would end up playing some stupid Flash game and being really terrified of it. Or you'll end up playing like Outlast and you end up being terrified of it. Or you end up playing Dead Space and you think that's terrifying. Oh, man. But I did put it... for some reason, I put Dead Space in horror, which makes no sense to me. It should be in a shooter. But maybe because I don't know. But this is a thing that always bothered me. Because, like, here, this too. Well, because I like to look at the reviews just to see what people say after I played a game to see if my fellow Steam users are retarded or not. You can probably guess how that turns out. So many people hated Afterfall. Like, I loved Afterfall Insanity. Afterfall Insanity is such a sweet game. Like, it's got bad gameplay. Really, it really does. It's got very clunky gameplay, but you feel like you're just a random... Like, I can't even remember what you are. You're like a therapist. I think you're a therapist. But you're just a random therapist going around smashing people's heads in with a hammer. It feels clunky, but you feel right, you know? I mean, you can claim, you can argue that that's bad game design, which technically it is, but at the very least, when I'm playing After Fall Insanity, I feel like some random dude hitting people on the head with a sledgehammer. I feel like some random dude murdering people and not really knowing how to do that professionally. I'm like, I'm not a trained super soldier. Outlast, you know what it plays like? You're Usain Bolt running around. Like, that's it. Like, that makes no sense. The game, like, that game has no tension. And where After Fall Insanity is a really, really good psychological horror game where you're just getting really deep in your mind, all kinds of crazy crap is happening, and then all this weird stuff, and then apparently it turns out you're all this and that, and blah, 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 and then you find humans that are cannibals, and, just... it's all over the place, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, so just... look at the reviews, and just you'll see what I'm saying, where people talk about how terrifying the game is. And look at the negative views, and just, they're like, ugh. That's the worst thing ever. When I actually hate a game, when I despise a game like The Walking Dead or Bioshock Infinite, no one ever says the things that are, like, actually wrong with the game. Really what it comes down to is, like, it's fanboys, or anti-fanboys, or whatever you might call them. It's just really butthurt play people on both sides of the spectrum. They're just really uptight, not thinking, never going to think for themselves, having their own stupid opinion fed to them by everyone else, and never thinking about the things that they're, like, when they talk, at least when they talk about it, like, if you like something, but you never state your opinion on it, you know what, I can actually, like, respect that a little bit, even if what you like and why you like that is completely retarded. And as long as you don't, like, you're not forcing your opinion down on other people, or at least expressing your opinion to other people, I can't really judge you all that hard, because you're doing the proper thing. You're keeping it to yourself. But these people, they just say, people who hate Bioshock Infinite hate it for the dumbest reasons ever. It's not that graphic, it's not like this, it's women feminine. Like, I hate it so much. But, like, the ending is terrible. I've already gone over this. I might have gone over this, like I said, I don't know when I'm putting these videos up. I might have gone over this already, but no, the ending is stupid. The ending is, like, the definitions of the words. Like, when we're arguing about the definition of a word instead of an execution of a principle, or an execution of writing, or execution of level design, or something, if we're not arguing about, like, some kind of actual execution, or some kind of actual thing, if we're arguing about the definition of the word... Or at least if I'm arguing about the definition of the word, trying to express why this is inherently wrong, it's an automatic win for me. Because it's not like, oh, the game poorly executed this. It's like, no, the game does not know what X means. When the game does not know what X means, then they're stupid. I've done this argument a million times with all kinds of things. This isn't a horror game, this is all execution, so you can disagree with me, but I'm pretty sure that I'm on the 98% of the objective side of this, where jump scares aren't terrifying, jump scares aren't scary, and if you think they are, it's because you haven't either tasted the good stuff, or I guess you're dumb and susceptible to jump scares, I guess. I don't know. But really, that's just, whatever. Alright, thanks for sitting through this. Hopefully I can actually do what I want to do with this web series, or vlogs, whatever you're going to call them. I don't care. Whatever I'm going to call them, I don't care. But originally I wanted to do Let's Discuss based on highly controversial, like, things. Like, I just wanted to talk about highly controversial things. And I want to get back to that. I want to start doing that. And you might be asking me, like, wait, what do you want to talk about? Like, what highly controversial things? Well, several things. One, I wanted to talk about why Duke Nukem Forever was actually a pretty good game, and why it's going on my top 100 video games of all time list. That's going to hopefully come out within the next some months. And you're like, whoa, really? Duke Nukem Forever? Yeah, I'm not kidding. I mean, it'll be in a Let's Discuss. I talk about it for an hour like I always do. where I'm going to talk about an hour and discuss why it is. Because trust me, it is. It's a fun idea. It's a very fun concept, and if you join me for it, you will have... If you join me for it, you will have a fun little idea brewing through your head, because when you look at it through a different perspective than what everyone else has, which is just a step back and take off the nostalgia glasses for a little bit, and try to view the game as a whole, you will find one of the most beautiful things ever in it. What else, Josh? What other horribly controversial things could you be possibly bringing up? I want to talk about Metroid Other M and talk about that game, because, again, it's actually a fairly good game. People talk about it. And I want to present very, very, very good arguments against their opinions, which I can't do without scripting, but I don't care. This will be a good enough discussion floor for that, because, frankly, fanboys are always dumb. This isn't even derogatory. This is not straw manning. This is not... straw man is a terrible idea. That's a bad fallacy. That's a fallacy of fallacies. What word am I looking for? Basically, I'm not using slander, and I'm not being derogatory towards these people when I call fanboys stupid. Fanboys are always really stupid, no matter what. Because if you're willing to consider yourself a fanboy, that means you're not willing to think about the things that you're consuming, meaning you don't have a valid opinion on them. And I'm going to discuss why they don't have a valid opinion on them. And if they had a valid opinion on them, it would be perfectly fine. It's the same thing with me stating in my first Jafar video, which is a series that's kind of like Let's Discuss, except for I'm more angry and more scripted, generally. But it's the same thing with that, where I talked about how Final Fantasy Final Fantasy Spirits Within was a Final Fantasy movie. It's because people are really stupid, they have no idea what they're consuming, and they're just taking in the mass word. When everyone on the planet believes something, even though it's inherently wrong, even though it's the most obviously wrong thing ever, you tend to agree with it, because you're not thinking about it. One, you're not thinking about it, and two, it's just easier to go along with the crowd. Guess what I don't do? I don't go along with the crowd. I think for myself, and I proved using only sarcasm, literally. This was such an easy argument for me that I only was sarcastic. I only was the biggest douchebag on the internet that moment. And I proved my argument without even the slightest doubt. Final Fantasy Spirits Within is a Final Fantasy movie. Woo! I also want to talk about Shigeru Miyamoto. Not Shigeru Miyamoto, that's the wrong one. I want to talk about Hayao Miyazaki. I know this one's going to blow a bunch of people's minds. But, I figured out a little bit of a fact when I watched when I watched a bunch of Miyazaki movies all at the same time, a bunch of Studio Ghibli movies. I guess I should say Studio Ghibli because they weren't all Miyazaki's movies. But a bunch of Studio Ghibli movies back to back, and I noticed a very, very significant thing that happens within all of these movies. And the thing that happens in all of the movies, it basically states that they're a noob studio. I'm saying that with as much meaning of the word I possibly can. Like, when you don't understand how to make a film, you'd make this kind of a mistake. And this mistake happens in every single one of his movies. And you can argue it's a stylistic choice, but no one ever talks about it when they talk about Miyazaki films. No one ever brings it up, and I'm going to discuss and go into detail about it. But whatever. Yeah, so I don't get it. I'm going to keep doing these things. I'm going to keep talking about games that everyone apparently loves, and yet for some reason they don't it wouldn't bother me if they. It doesn't bother me the fact that they like it, other than Outlast. Frankly, The Walking Dead doesn't bother me that the people like it because people like the show. The show's stupid. People like video games mindlessly because they're stupid. The Walking Dead has at least character moments in it that make it very good, which at least understandably makes it easier for me to believe that people like it. Outlast is stupid, start to finish. BioShock Infinite, at least I kind of get why people like that, but man, that ending was stupid. And that's basically what the whole point of this series is. Hopefully I put this one up first, because that'll be a little bit better in context, because I kind of explain, the rationale and the whole thing of this. I talk about things that other people don't talk about. I talk about things that are controversial. I express my opinion when it directly conflicts with the majority viewpoint. That's what, because I want to discuss this with you. Maybe sometimes I'll probably even discuss things with you that you already agree with, and I'm talking to you in the majority. The majority would already agree with, but why? Because sometimes why is way more important than what. Well, always it's more important, but in this discussion thing, why is often more important than what, and that's what we're going to go to. Because I want to talk about it. Because I want us to discuss. I want us to go through and deliberate with each other. I want intellectual discussion in the comments. I want people to converse with one another about how this and that. And I want us to see things on different levels. I want to talk about how Resident Evil 6 is one of the best games that came out that year. One of the best games that come out in 2012 and 2013. I think those are the years that came out. Why that's a really, really great game, and people hated it for assumingly stupid reasons. And I know I'm one of the few people who believe that, because I've had conversations with people who believe that. Fanboys, like a guy I really like because he does stupid animations of Game Grumps stuff, and I subscribe to him for that, and I love that stuff. I love what he does with it. I think he's one of the better ones that do it. And because of his animation, and because of that, he actually did a series where he said the top 10 best, and like the top so many best Resident Evil games, so many worst Resident Evil games, and his number one worst Resident Evil game was Resident Evil 6, and his explanations for the game was completely inept. Why was it completely inept? Because he didn't think about it. He only played the game and reacted the same way that everyone played the game, and everyone reacted. That is not healthy. That is the reason why I have a video series called Jafar, for those of you who don't understand what Jafar stands for, no one does because I haven't stated it, it's Gamers and Anime Fans Are Retarded. And you know why it's named Gamers and Anime Fans Are Retarded? It's because gamers and anime fans are retarded. The majority, and I'm not talking about individually, because individually you guys are, everyone's retarded. We're all retarded. We all have our extreme moments of retardation. But the fact is, most of us aren't, well, the vast majority, I'm going to say this, and I know people are getting offended, but the vast majority of gamers and anime fans are retarded all of the time. And I know I'm going to get a little bit of hate for that. Hopefully I get a little bit of hate for that, because frankly it is somewhat intellectually dishonest to call everyone retarded all the time. But, fact. It's pretty much a fact at this point that people are too stupid to think for themselves and often come to opinions that are, one, as incorrect and illogical as you can possibly get, and two, derived from mass thought, or mass thoughtlessness, I guess would be the better term. Mass thoughtlessness. Like I said in my first Jafar video about whether Final Fantasy Spirits Within was a Final Fantasy movie. This whole thing, the entire point, basically everyone heard one woman say that Final Fantasy is not a Final Fantasy movie. Final Fantasy Spirits Within is not a Final Fantasy. This one movie said it on TV, on the G4 TV network, G4 TV channel, cable channel, and she said that. Every single person I had talked to on the planet since that day, since she stated that fact, everyone has presented that to me. That Final Fantasy is not a Final Fantasy movie. Final Fantasy The Spirits Within is not a Final Fantasy movie. And the fact that every single person I have talked to on this very subject does not understand that very thing is the dumbest thing, one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life, and one of the easiestly provable wrong things I've ever said have been said to me in my entire life, is one of the more depressing aspects of this fandom. And it will never, frankly, it doesn't get worse. I don't think it gets worse than that. The misogyny, at least I get, because heck, I get misogyny. You think you're better than everything else, so you hate everyone else. Makes sense. I get all the other problems. I get even people talking about how stupid Metroid and Resident Evil is, because it's just as inept, but the mass delusion that came from this is literally the biggest problem hitting the gaming community and anime community as well too. And this mass delusion is literally the same thing that's affecting every one of the things I'm talking about in this video. Especially what is it? Duke Nukem Forever. the Duke Nukem Forever whole thing, the Tomb Raider thing, the Resident Evil 6, everyone hating Resident Evil 6, everyone hating Metroid Other M. All of these things come from the same mass delusions that make no sense to me when you just ask a single simple question. And this is something I want to leave you with right here, right now. I want you to go and ask a single question about any idea, about any philosophy, about anything that has been presented to you and that you have not questioned before. Ask a simple question, and I guarantee you will find yourself infinitely far more intelligent than everyone else. And it's not because you are somehow smarter, because I am not smarter than everyone else. I merely asked that one question that leads to another question. I asked, why did everybody hate Duke Nukem Forever? And I have found one of the most beautiful and one of the funniest and one of the most well thought out responses that could ever been presented by a developer to that very question. Till next time.